Magandang umaga po mula sa lungsod ng Baguio. A warm welcome to our participants to the 2021 UP System GE Conference, Part 1, where we will have our GE conversations or Baon-Bidahan. The primary question that we will reflect on today is, how did you teach SAS 1 in your CU? I am Rozel Balmores-Paulino, a faculty in the Department of Anthropology, Sociology, and Psychology, College of Social Sciences, University of the Philippines, Baguio, and I will be the moderator for today's session. So before we begin, let me first reiterate the objectives of the conversations. So these are to reflect on teaching GE in time of crisis, rearticulate the relevance of the GE philosophy, and to reinvigorate the teaching and learning of GE. Let's begin this morning's bidahan by listening to our 4 panelists. Each panelist will be given 5 minutes for their presentation. We will be entertaining your questions and comments after all the presentations. You may send your questions to the Slido link flashed earlier. So for our first presentation, let me first introduce our first speaker. Our first speaker is a registered psychologist and assistant professor 5 at the Department of Social Sciences. He obtained his Bachelor of Arts in Classical, major in Philosophy at St. Francis de Sales Major Seminary in 2009, and his Master of Arts in Psychology at the University of Santo Tomas in 2016. He passed the recent board exam and now is a registered psychologist. He teaches Sci 1 and other psychology major subjects in UPLB. His research interests are centered on personality, educational clinical psychology, disaster studies and crisis management, and psychotrauma management. So friends and colleagues, let us welcome Professor Dan Paolo R. Yema.
Good morning. Self and society are 2 inseparable constructs. As the course progresses, the course shed light to the deep relationship between our personal circumstances and the social forces that shape them. This has been the motive of SAS 1 as a GE course even before the pandemic. Like any other GE course, the delivery is a main challenge to the faculty. Interaction among the members of the class, the teachers, the students, and their experiences make possible a colorful discussion of the lesson. But with the new mode of learning, everybody has to navigate and master a new way of communicating with each other. There are lessons that we can gain from this that can help us refocus the course to what it is all about. More importantly, SAS 1 remains useful to the students in understanding their own experiences, especially in a time where the world and every aspect of our lives are being restructured by the pandemic. The first lesson is that SAS 1 is a platform for self-reflection. This is reflected in the essays and activities that the students need to accomplish. We cannot deny that face-to-face interaction and exchange of ideas are impossible at this time. Even synchronous sessions have its limitations. This shift to online learning mode is generally a new way of life for the learners. The creation of a self-directed and independent learner must be documented in the papers of the students. SAS 1 could help us reflect on our values and principles, not just in learning, but in living a new world in general. Another lesson for us is that SAS 1 is a tool for understanding the self within an ever-changing culture and society. With social structures and processes being reshaped, the self does all the processing. But individuals are limited by their own personal experiences. Their coping mechanisms and definitions of the situations are functions of their own interactions with the immediate social milieu. But through SAS 1, The student gets exposed to different cultures, ideas, and experiences through the readings, videos, synchronous sessions, and other learning materials. The course must emphasize the concept of a new culture being developed by and within this new normal. SAS1 helps students understand this culture and how we adjust to changes in society. It is hoped that through this, the student can better grasp the dynamics of self and society. The first two lessons direct the student to the final lesson. SAS1 is and must be an avenue for self-expression, to become meaningful for the individual and for others. The course is primarily designed for the students to realize that they are part of a greater web of relationships, and their actions are conditioned and can be conditioned by the relationships where they belong. While their movement and space is limited by and within the confines of their homes, the imagination still promises new horizons which can be explored. And this imagination can be translated into action. They can express themselves in many ways, and through the online platform, it can reach and influence other people. Thus, this individual imagination and expression can lead into a collective action, one that can make change to culture and society and can affect the individual. Overall, the faculty teaching and the students taking the course are confronted by the question of relevance. What can SAS1 do for them and for others in a time of pandemic? The answer is, we go back to what GE is all about, a critique. SAS1 remains to be relevant because it helps us understand the uncertainties of our time. It gives us answers to questions that can be intimidating to the point that we want to avoid them. But once answered, it gives us the courage to ask more and hope for a better self and a clearer future for society. My heartfelt gratitude to all UPLB SAS1 instructors for sharing their insights and reflections and their contributions in the teaching of SAS1, and to Sir Prince Aldama for this piece. Thank you.
Maraming pong salamat, Professor Yema. We now move on to our next panelist. She is Assistant Professor at the Division of Social Sciences, University of the Philippines, Visayas. She's also a Fellow of the Ryochi Sasakawa Young Leaders Fellowship Fund. She has a Master's of Arts degree in Social Psychology and a Bachelor of Arts degree in Psychology. Her research interests include critical theory, digital activism, and computer-mediated communication. Colleagues, let us welcome Professor Aniceta Patricia T. Alingasa.
Good morning, everyone. So I'm here to discuss how we manage our classrooms during the remote learning setup, specifically when teaching SAS1. So for all of us who are teaching SAS1, we know that it's a very interactive course. And one of the things that our students enjoy about SAS1 is that we encourage group discussions, group activities, even games. No, so that's something that our students do miss out in this remote learning setup. But there are many challenges in teaching SAS1 online. But at the same time, there are also many opportunities. So how did our teachers manage to manage our classrooms in teaching SAS1? First, I will present two ways that we did classroom management. No, so the first is, how did we manage synchronous classes? And secondly, how did we manage asynchronous classes? So in managing synchronous classes, the key is, despite the online platform, the Zoom platform, we endeavor to provide an interactive class environment. And we do this by making use of various platforms and applications. So, ano ba yung mga apps and platforms na ginamit ng mga teachers natin, or the teachers that I have surveyed who taught SAS1? So there are many platforms. For example, a lot of teachers use Mentimeter, quizzes for making quizzes, and Kahoots for online games. So the purpose of all of this is to provide novel ways of student interaction that we cannot otherwise deliver. We can otherwise deliver in an in-person setup. So what we miss out in face-to-face classes, we try to make up for with using the technology that's available to us. So the feedback of students about using these platforms is they enjoy the synchronous classes that we do hold from time to time. So the challenge naman is we can't always hold synchronous classes, right? Because there are students who have challenges trying to access the internet. So later on, we will discuss what we do with managing asynchronous classes. But for synchronous classes, students value interaction. And so we try to provide them ways to interact with us so that hindi naman sila magkaroon ng Zoom fatigue, because that is one of the issues that our students are also opening up to us instructors, na napapagod na sila sa Zoom. So we can try to switch up the ways that we do things so that we can keep the discussions interesting for our students. And then this is important as well. We have to promote synchronous group discussions by using various platforms such as Zoom breakout rooms or Discord. So some feedback from the students before is that kapag ganito lang na one way yung direction ng conversation between teacher and students, they tend to get tired more. So we try to have them engage in class this as we would in in-person classes. So we would try to have them engage in group discussions by maximizing the technology that's available to us. So kahit hindi tayo nagkikita-kita, still there are some platforms that we can use so that our students can have engagement still in our teaching, in our discussion of our SAS1 lessons. Now, moving on to managing asynchronous classes, and this is the bulk of the classroom experience of our students, right? Because we try to manage synchronous classes because of connectivity problems by our students. So from time to time, instructors tell me that they hold synchronous classes at least once a week or once every 2 weeks as per discussion, depende sa setup ng students. So largely, our students learn SAS1 asynchronously. And later on, Sir Baula will talk about the preparation of course packs. But this time, how can we manage our asynchronous classes? First is, makikita natin sa SAS1 modules that there are discussion questions every module, like every end of the lesson, we have class discussion questions. So what we do is we can transform these module discussion points or guide questions into group-based activities so that we encourage collaborative learning. So in asynchronous classes, students don't have a choice but to learn on their own. And it's hard to learn just on your own, right? As an individual, kahit na tayo nahihirapan tayo magtrabaho ng nag-iisa, right? So we still crave collaboration. And to encourage this, many instructors transform our guide questions into group activities like group reporting, group discussions, a group chat, making videos as a group. So this collaborative learning helps students overcome the challenge of learning individually so that they have study buddies, group activity buddies that they can discuss the class lessons with. That way, they don't feel alone when they are learning or when they are studying their lessons. So paano ba natin may encourage? How can we promote group-based activities? How can we promote collaborative learning? So what we can do again is to maximize the technology that is available to us. So group activities or group-based learning is both a challenge and an opportunity. And it's an opportunity because we have this technology available to us, just like I don't know about other CUs, but in UPV, we use the learning management system. So there are discussion boards, quizzes, and they can access the recorded lectures in the UPV LMS. And then they can also upload short video clips via Flipgrid so that they can see the faces of their classmates. Even though kapag naka-zoom, naka-off yung camera, at least sa Flipgrid, nakikita nila yung fellow classmates nila. And the lessons become more alive, become more human. And then we use chat rooms via WhatsApp or Discord just so we can see the progress of the discussions of our students. And then we can use open access video resources such as TED Talk and YouTube. So in this way, our students are able to access their class activities, their resources in their own time. And at the same time, they can access it together online. They can keep in touch with each other in real time, although online. And then lastly, like I said, we have to prioritize self-paced or self-directed learning. This means that when we manage our classes, students appreciate that we have flexible deadlines and that we give them low-stakes formative assessment. No? So less of the graded quizzes and exams and more of the group discussions, discussion boards, class presentations, what else? Other activities that we can come up with online, games, no? So as teachers, we are faced with this challenge of trying to and wanting to interact with our students, making sure that they understand the concepts that they are learning in SAS1, especially the first 3 modules. It's really difficult, and our students keep telling us, "Ma'am, can you please be more available for consultations on modules 1 through 3 kasi medyo mahirap talaga siya intindihin." So the availability of instructors is important for students, and we can maximize both our synchronous environments and asynchronous environments so that we can walk our students through the modules that they are supposed to study, especially the first 3 because yung talaga yung medyo heavy, no? So after that, students are able to cope well with their lessons from modules 4 through 8. And so they need less scaffolding. So basically, how can we manage our classrooms? How can we manage our classrooms teaching SAS1? We just have to maximize the opportunities that are available to us online. And we have to manage as well our class requirements for our students, both for ourselves and our students. Kasi dati, we have them write critical papers. Right now, it's so hard to check critical papers, right? So maximize collaborative learning and prioritize self-directed learning so that our students can have a well and healthy learning environment while teaching SAS1. So that is it. Thank you.
Okay. Maraming salamat, Prof. Anipat. Let us move on to our third panelist. Our third panelist completed his bachelor's degree in sociology and MA guidance and counseling in UP Diliman. He obtained his master's in environmental social science in De La Salle University. He's currently a PhD candidate in sociology at Ateneo de Manila. His research interests include environmental education, gender, and the Filipino family. He has been teaching in higher education for the last 23 years, having taught in De La Salle University under the Department of Behavioral Sciences for 15 years, and he's currently teaching in the Behavioral Sciences Department in UP Manila. Let's welcome Professor Enrico U. Baula.
Oops. Good morning po. Let me just share my screen. Okay, so guys, I'll be talking about course packs, or how we actually made our course packs for this term and last term actually. So the job was fairly easy because again, I've actually made multiple course packs throughout last year and this year. So there was really very little preparation. But what happened was last week, lumabas yung evaluation of mga students. And while I was reading through it, and I found it quite interesting, is that ang daming comment ng mga estudyante about the course packs. And take note, the set was taken from last year, the first time we started doing our course packs. Again, I was pleasantly surprised that a lot of students commented on the course pack. So first of all, I'd like to share kung ano yung mga sinabi nila. Before I actually show you the course packs, I'd like to share yung mga nagustuhan ng mga estudyante about the course packs. Again, I was surprised. So even actually a comment na course packs was actually quite refreshing, because nobody would ever comment na, oh, maganda yung syllabus and whatnot. So here are my recommendations as I put them in themes, kung ano yung mga comment ng mga estudyante. Make your course packs available to your students in the beginning of the term. So if you actually look at the, ito yung some of the comments I actually took from the students. I'm not going to read all of them. So his course is mostly systematic, organized. One had since even before the semester started. Sir provided us with an overview of when we would have synchronous classes and what deadlines were supposed to be met. What I found most effective with my experience with Sir Baula was that even before the start of the semester, he already created our course packs that included all the learning resources that we needed and blah, 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 all the requirements. All the materials were given before the start of the semester, and learning materials varied from readings, films, and other materials, making the assigned works more engaging. From the start of the semester, he provided a course guide and semestral schedule that was thoroughly followed all throughout. Initially, he gave the course guide for the entire semester before it even begins. In this way, he showed us what to expect and what to prepare, allowing us to better pace ourselves. He informs us of the requirements in the very beginning of the semester, and he makes us do the work. Check ko lang, chat, baka hindi ako naririnig. Okay, sorry. Okay, semester, and he makes us do the work before discussing the topics. My professor already gave us what to expect, of course, from the very beginning, which helped me balance my time. Planning the whole semester in the beginning and semester and sticking to the calendar provides a course guide with all the requirements that we needed for the whole term. So what did I actually learn from reading the evaluation from the students is that, yeah, last year we were all nangangapa, okay? We were, but the realization that having a very comprehensive, having a very prepared, organized course pack that actually brought some form of normalcy to our students. I mean, they needed that normalcy. They needed an instructor that had control over the situation, because again, last year and even today, we're very much not in control of the situation. So this is new, this is a new normal. But the fact that your instructor actually already knows and planned out what's going to happen throughout the term, I think that really comforted the students. That gave them the idea that again, at least the idea that everything's kind of normal, that again, the situation is under control. Specifically when, definitely, please make your course packs as comprehensive as possible. Again, I'll show you examples later. So the course syllabus has so these are again all the comments ng mga estudyante. The course syllabus is everything that we need to know from the number and the kind of requirements we have to submit along with its respective due dates. The course pack was really comprehensive, and that's everything that we needed to know or done in the course. Everything was scheduled and details were completely provided. Very clear instructions and clear rubric parameters, very well structured syllabus and expected output, follow rubrics when grading, has a clear course guide that is actually religiously followed. Di naman, pero sige. The class was well organized and planned. Everything was done in a very organized manner, that the system and the flow of lessons were understandable. So again, how everything should be in the course pack. Actually, we designed our course pack more oriented to the distance learning reality, that what if I would actually teach the class without the teacher? Okay, so in my mindset anyway, is that everything should be in the modules, everything should be in the course pack, even if there's no teacher actually physically or online giving you the instructions. Class activities, as noted kay Ma'am Anipat kanina, I specifically use Canvas, and I was also surprised myself, minus the reaction of students, how the group discussions feature in Canvas, that was very interesting. That was very effective, actually. So if we have time later on, maybe I'll show you examples of how students actually use group discussions. So they appreciated the integrated papers and the group discussions. Group discussions enable us, Mr. Baula students, to interact in Canvas. This activity allows us to share how we understood the reading, as well as integrate with the country's current situation. I find this means as a helpful platform of student assessment for expressing what we have learned so far regarding a certain lesson. Group discussions allow for more intellectual yet classroom feel among students. Group discussions were very interesting. The idea of having a group discussion in class through the Canvas also helped me to improve the way I make formal arguments and arrange my thoughts properly. And that's one of the things that I was really surprised on, because I don't know if I can go back to normal, ordinary face-to-face group discussions, because the way the group discussion Canvas works is that, of course, they have to discuss through online, but every comment, every argument, every discussion that the students have online, they were very thought out. They were very, very well planned out. They were all cited. Okay, so meaning if this was a normal face-to-face classroom, people will just, have their own prior knowledge and argue. But before they would actually post their comments or argue their points, meron ka na kagad 5 citations to support their facts. So again, the discussions were very thought out, and they get, again, the feeling that they are actually discussing with or arguing with their classmates. Again, a classroom feeling. Discussion posts, required readings, and film analysis really helped me gain new relevant insights. Alternative methods of synchronous and asynchronous session, various activities. The course was very effective. And last thing, of course, is, I don't know what, this is really not part of the course pack, but this is really necessary. I don't know why some people still do not do this. Okay, I know, okay, the intellectual property aspect of it. But again, as I've said, I designed it as if there's no interaction with the teacher, so that if the student has a problem of actually having access to, or may problema lang at that certain moment, may klase ka, I always tell my student, it doesn't matter. You never have to attend any of my classes. Okay, you can download the video or the lecture and any convenient. Kung 1 o'clock ka talaga mabilis ang internet mo, di dun mo panoorin. You do not have to actually attend of my classes, because again, it will be accessible until the end of the term. So recording the synchronous classes, I highly appraise the teaching method of the professor on recording the class lecture to the sake of those students who were not able to attend class due to internet latency issues and other remote learning constraints. The professor uploaded all the lectures, making them available to students whenever they are free. So it was a big help for those with connectivity issues and time constraints. Shares recorded synchronous class videos, uploading lectures on time. Okay. So let me now share you the, where is that? Oh no, wait a second now. Just okay. So here's an example of the course pack from Ma'am Dayan. Hi, Ma'am Dayan. Okay. This, by the way, is just an amalgamation of our course packs. It's not purely Ma'am Dayan's course pack. So may mga some parts from other faculty of the department. So that's one. So obviously here, always the link for the Zoom meetings. So even without even Canvas, because some of us use Canvas, some of us does not use Canvas. So for this example, check ko lang. Nag-hype pala sa room there. So you can provide the link in Canvas, or you can provide it actually in the course pack. So students, Again, objectives. Now, this part is where students are actually very much appreciative for. So this one, just one example for one module on the left column, you of course, the topic, the schedule. For the upper part here, of course, this is a schedule for synchronous classes. So they already know that, okay, for March 1, 4, and 8, we'll have synchronous classes. And for March 11 and 15, we'll have asynchronous classes. And of course, here you can click on the link where actually you can access the PowerPoint for that lesson. For me, I don't give PowerPoint primarily because I give recording. So panoorin mo na lang yung recording, gonna be because yung PowerPoint. And of course, this one is asynchronous classes. Usually we give our activities and our required outputs during the asynchronous work. So again, the schedule where we expect you to submit the asynchronous work. Okay. Of course, the resource material showing you the links to the YouTube video, to the web page. For this, for example, the reading, you can either provide a link for the reading if it's online or actually in Canvas, it's already uploaded to Canvas, or of course, Google Drive that is being shared to the whole class. So this is how it works. Throughout the term, you see it this way so that students know the exact everything. The exact everything, and all the readings are given, all the links are given, and even later show you. So again, it's the same. Same. Oh yeah, see, kasama yun, no? Wellness break. Okay, so part of the course pack, of course, again, the idea is this is the first time they see their course packs. Then, of course, you explain to them how synchronous sessions will work, how asynchronous sessions will work. For my class, every Mondays we have a synchronous class. Every Thursdays we have an asynchronous class. That's the normal schedule for us. Also, I designed my course pack for also students who are completely going to be devoid of any, again, accessibility to the internet. So I also designed my course pack that is to be printed out, to be given to students who are going to do distance learning. So even in this part, I say I have course pack A and course pack B. I'm not going to explain this anymore, but I just showed here that those students who are going to attend the synchronous asynchronous learning, you're going on the left column. For those students who are purely distance learning, then you're going to do pack B. Okay, so and then here it explains the difference between pack A and pack B. Okay, also the difference between grading between pack A and pack B. Okay. So also with regards to instructions on, for example, group discussions, nakalagay na rin dyan kung paano natin gagawin yung group discussions. Every group discussion, whatever subject actually I'm teaching, this is the same format. Okay? And of course, sa baba dyan, makikita nyo every specific date that your group discussion is expected to actually be submitted. Synthesis output, same instructions. Reflection outputs, same instructions. Rubrics, of course. And maybe some of you are concerned about this, but I found a lot of students found this actually to be quite helpful. That even all the questions in the beginning of the term, nakalagay na lahat. All your activities, nakalagay na yung mga questions. For your sick, nakalagay na yung mga questions. I found it really funny that when I gave my course pack this term, 1 week before nag-start ng classes, 1 week before the classes, 4 days later, may nag-email sa, sir, pwede nung submit yung integrated paper 1, 2, and 3 ko. Walang yaka. Okay, sige, pero you're gonna have to submit that again in Canvas. So I mean, we really designed it that students can learn on their own. Of course, there's the importance of learning with other students, of course, the importance with having a teacher, but again, designed it also that as much as possible, students can get everything already in the beginning of the term. So having this, all the questions for all the activities and the deadline and the readings for that's required for that specific activity is already in the course pack. So again, as I've showed you kanina, this was very much appreciated by the students. You'd think that they would be overwhelmed by this. Nope, like I said, they were looking for some form of normalcy and they needed actually a very organized way to look at their term. And this actually, the course packs, the way they were designed, really helped the students out. Okay. Thank you.
Maraming salamat, Prof. Baula. Right. We are now down to our last presentation panelist. Definitely, of course, not the least. Our next panelist is the chair of the Department of Sociology, College of Social Sciences and Philosophy, University of the Philippines, Diliman. where she earned her Bachelor of Arts and Master of Arts degrees in sociology. Professor Jo teaches undergraduate courses on social psychology, environment and society, social movements, and general education courses. Her teaching is enriched by her continuous engagement in collaborative, interdisciplinary research. Her most recent research projects are on technology and social development, which seek to help build an inclusive model of rural industrialization and development. Professor Dionisio was coordinator of the inter-CU team that developed the system-wide GE course on self and society. As System GE champion, she worked towards the institution of SAS 1 at the system level and in UP Diliman. She also led an inter-CU team of module writers, which prepared the modules and curated the learning resources for SAS 1. She was lead author for Module 2, Context and Process of Selfhood, and co-author for Module 1, Perspectives About the Self. She has also developed a teaching material for an OER entitled Self and Society, Introducing Key Concepts, which is included in the UPOU's TV-UP lineup entitled Master Voices, Multimedia and Multidisciplinary Teaching and Learning Materials for CE Courses. Before joining the academe, Professor Jo worked in a development NGO where she has developed the passion and commitment to pursue social justice, which continues to be her main motivation in teaching and research. So friends and colleagues, let us welcome Professor Dionisio.
Salamat po. Dito ko lang yung pag-share. Okay. So, magandang umaga po sa lahat. So, in preparation for this conference, our panel had a brief sharing session about our experiences in handling SAS 1. And from that brief session, we have identified common themes in terms of challenges and opportunities for SAS 1. So in terms of opportunities, as mentioned earlier, the COVID-19 pandemic brought changes in our lives, which serve as rich educational resources for SAS 1. For example, problematizing the concept of social distancing, discussing the devastating impact on the self and on interpersonal relationships of limited mobility or lack of access to physical and social spaces, writing about the importance of self-care, understanding the role of rituals and rites of passage, which have been denied in the past year, given the health crisis, observing emergent acts of empathy and social solidarity. These are all useful anchors in class discussions and student reflections in the different modules of SAS 1, maybe specifically for the first 3 modules. The shift to blended learning modalities enabled greater incorporation of digital technologies, including social media platforms, into teaching and classroom management. It has shown ways through which ICTs may enable new and different types of collaborative classwork, as well as different forms of individual self-expression. Still, many express a downside of completely remote learning as compared to face-to-face learning. Indeed, this new learning modality is in itself a rich resource for discussion in SAS 1. Clearly, the extended forced isolation, as well as the new responsibilities, difficulties, and stressors that students must bear during this health crisis require that students gain resilience, partly through a better understanding of their self and society. Therefore, SAS 1 remains a highly relevant GE course. In terms of challenges, our experiences in past year also highlight the administrative challenges that we have been facing since the full implementation of SAS 1 in 2018. To keep up with growing student demand, we need to build a bigger pool of SAS 1 faculty and to strengthen the current pool, especially in CUs where SAS 1 is identified as a core GE course. The hurdle is that prospective faculty members express their lack of self-confidence in handling SAS1 topics, which are not within their disciplinal expertise. For current faculty members, they express the importance of orientation seminars for course handlers and the need for an improved set of instructional materials that would enable them to confidently handle topics which are outside their own expertise. The student suggestions mentioned in their SEPs for SAS1 are also indicative of challenges for SAS1 in terms of course delivery. Some of their suggestions include 1, having a more compact course coverage, 2, more time for each module, 3, guest lecturers on specific topics, and 4, small group discussions. All of these indicate that students are asking for more depth rather than breadth in teaching SAS1. So in terms of possible ways forward, let me just reiterate what is stated in the UP GE framework, where it says, professional development in interdisciplinary pedagogies and instructional support services should be made available to all GE course teams. So for SAS1, this would be in terms of institutionalizing faculty orientation and training for SAS1. It also means an improvement or a revision of the SAS1 modules, maybe even towards the production of a SAS1 textbook. There is also a recognized felt need to establish and consolidate the social network of SAS1 faculty in each CU and across CUs. The shift to blended learning modalities opens opportunities for interdisciplinary and inter-CU collaboration, for the sharing and development of instructional materials, and in pooling of SAS1 faculty experts. Now, for my last 2 points, let me just highlight a couple of things, which I think might be useful because these are embedded in the course design of SAS1. First, from the UPGE framework, we understand that GE courses are different from basic education courses. GE courses aim to deepen the understanding of key ideas, theories, and paradigms. This I quote from page 9 of the GE framework paper. In key ideas, theories, and paradigms in various disciplines, and develop higher order cognitive skills such as analysis, synthesis, and integration, and problem formulation or articulation. Thus, in principle, GE courses should not engage in remediation of the basic skills. Interdisciplinarity in the GE program should ideally be reflected not only in the content of GE courses, but also in how the courses are taught. GE courses shall be taught by faculty members who are specialists in their fields, but also are interdisciplinary in orientation. So as the theme for the slide, I'm pointing out there that SAS1 is self and society, and not a separate discussion of the self and then a separate discussion of society. It is social psychology, basically, a GE course on social psychology. And SAS1 is also more than the CHED GE course on understanding the self. UP SAS1, the CHED GE course, Understanding the Self, is focused on a comprehensive understanding of the self towards the effective management of oneself. While the focus on the self is a substantive portion of SAS1, SAS1 also includes substantive discussions on the topics of citizenship and social solidarity. SAS1, or Self and Society 1, is designed to give UP students a foundational understanding of selfhood as socially constituted and of agency, civility, and social solidarity as important dimensions of selfhood. As stated in the UC-approved syllabus of SAS1, The course description of SAS1 is as follows. No? Examining the interaction of biological, psychological, sociocultural selfhood and appreciating human agency in different socio-historical contexts. Course goals is to develop an interdisciplinary framework in understanding the complex nature of selfhood and of the intricate relationship between persons and their environment, with an emphasis on learners' developmental stage, situatedness, and agency, and to promote civility regardless of difference by analyzing various forms of human experience and discussing possible ways of forging solidarity. All of this are captured and embedded in the first 8 modules, in the core 8 modules of SAS1. Because we have more than 8 modules, but all of this we have tried to capture in the 8 modules of SAS1. So very briefly, that is what we see in terms of challenges and opportunities for SAS1. More compared to all other GE courses, probably the pandemic of the last year has highlighted the importance of and relevance of SAS1 as a GE course. Magandang umaga po at maraming salamat sa inyong lahat.
Maraming salamat po, Professor Dionisio. We are now moving on to the next part of our discussion. We will now open the session for our questions, comments. And may I request for the assistance of Professor Amor in facilitating the Q&A portion.
Thank you, Ma'am Rozel. Okay po ba yung aking audio check ko lang? Naririnig po ba ako?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you. Salamat. So we received questions from the registration at saka meron din po tayong questions sa Slido. I-encourage ko lang din po yung iba na if you have comments, pwede kayong mag-input dun sa chat. So the first question coming from Ma'am Tala Aurora Ramos of UP Baguio. How different is online teaching of Self and Society 1 from a face-to-face delivery in terms of class activities? Alam ko dito si Sir Baula, pero maybe there might be someone who'd like to add more to respond to this question. O baka si Ma'am Rozel. Ma'am Rozel, baka gusto niyong mag-respond to that. Ma'am, naka-mute po kayo.
Actually, inisip ko po baka meron din po from our participants today na gusto ding mag-respond and share their answer to that question. Aside from what has been shared earlier by...
Shared. Oo.
Na po ni Prof. Meron pong nabanggit si Prof. Anipat dyan, no, where she made some distinction between the synchronous vis-a-vis the asynchronous mode. Yeah. Of course, we are encouraging others to also share what they think is the difference between the two. Or at least the difference that the changes they've made when they shifted to online teaching.
Okay, thank you. So we'll just ask our participants to add to what was shared by our panelists. So siguro we can move on to the next question. From Kelvin Meneses of UP Los Baños. Paano ituturo ang pag-unawa sa sarili kung uuwi tayo sa pakikilahok sa kabuuan? So, sino po kaya ang gustong sumagot nito? Mula sa ating panelist? Sige po, sir. Go ahead po.
Well, before, very basic lang naman sa akin is that before I actually ask my students to think about those questions, ang idea ko is my job is really to give them knowledge first. You can't be a critical thinking without knowledge. So, usually dun sa question na yan, pumapasok ako kay Durkheim, para sa mga sociologists dito, is that explaining to what type of culture you guys belong to. Filipinos are pre-industrial, therefore Filipinos are very much on the concept of the group orientation, group cohesion. Mas importante lagi ang grupo kaysa sa individual. On the other hand, if you look at industrial societies or modern societies, they're more oriented to individualism, okay, more on human rights rather than group cohesion. So just explaining that in whole detail, that the difference of the way collective consciousness is developed through different cultures. I mean, it's up to them to actually decide whether what is more important for them, to exert their individuality or to, again, just be part of the group or konseptong pakikisama. So, lalo na yung example, yung group discussions, dyan sila talaga magko-comment with each other, gonna argue with each other. Ano nga ba mas importante? Exert ko yung individual rights ko or exert ko yung concept ko na be part of the community? And really doon makikita, and again, kaya nga maganda yung group discussions, is that it's not prior knowledge. Because before they post anything, nagre-research muna yung mga talaga. So minsan may comment na maliit bakas mayroong 5 citations under it. Wow, grabe, okay? So while I'm reading it as a teacher, impressed ako na well thought out yung arguments versus din umiikot ka sa classroom, di ba? Nakikinig ka ng mga pagsasabi na, ay alam ko na yan. Okay, that old thing. Oh, sige. But in this session, at least makikita mo na, yeah, they're really concerned about having a very well thought out answer before they post anything. Thank you.
Thank you, Sir Baula. Any additional points from other panelists? Meron po bang gusto idagdag? Yes?
I just want
yes,
to...
Ma'am Anipat, go ahead.
Yes, I just want to agree with Sir Enrico. The way I understand the question kasi that was posed is, paano ba maituturo yung sarili kung mauwi siya sa kabuuan? It's like, is SAS one promoting a collective view of the self as opposed to like individualistic view of the self? I know that the course packs or the modules seem to be advancing a certain view of this because it is self and society. But like what Sir Enrico Baula said, it all boils down to critical thinking. So we present our students with how the self is construed individually and collectively, and it's up to the students to decide how are they going to construct their idea of the self based on all of this information that they have available to them. How are they going to show citizenship, solidarity, etc., etc. So it's not one or the other. Gaya nga ng sabi ni Ma'am Jo, it's not self and society, but it's a collaboration of both. And it's up to the students to critically interpret this kind of worldview.
Thank you, Ma'am Anipat. Ma'am Jo, meron po kayong gustong idagdag?
Sa karanasan ko lang po, useful kasi na doon sa Module 1 and Module 2, magkaroon ng mahusay na talakayan, no? Doon sa sulatin halimbawa ni George Herbert Mead. Kasi si George Herbert Mead yung nag-reconcile nung usapin ng self as constructed by society through social interaction, but also the self as human beings capable of intelligent reflection. No, and therefore, from that capacity of human beings, they are able to have agency, and agency is cost change, no. So hindi so parang doon pa lang sa discussion na yan, sa maagang bahagi ng course, nabibigyan mo na ng tools yung estudyante para makita na hindi kailangang magbangga yung usapin ng pagkakaroon ng self-definition at saka yung pakikilahok sa in terms of social solidarity. At magkaroon din ng pagsisimula sa talakayan kung kailan at sa anong konteksto ba nagkakaroon ng struggle sa pagitan ng dalawang yon. Yan lang po.
Okay, thank you. Maraming salamat po sa pagsagot dun sa katanungan na yon. Pwede tayong tumuloy sa susunod na question na actually natatanong ito sa ilang conversations na na nangyari. Paano na-integrate ang usapin ng kasarian sa inyong syllabus at pagtuturo?
Siguro po kaiba sa lahat ng, hindi naman kaiba, pero yung SAS 1 po may isang module siya on gender issues. No? So, meron po siyang, if I'm not mistaken, that's module 5. No? Pero aside from having a specific module to tackle gender and SOGI issues, sa bawat module din po, laging integrated yun as an analytical and a critical stance, yung feminist perspective. Kaya kung mapapansin po siguro natin dun sa mga modules na yun, natin for SAS 1, laging merong ganun pagbanggit sa usapin ng gender.
Okay, thank you Ma'am Jo. Salamat for that. And then another major concern din ng mga estudyante ngayon, no? So do you have any concrete suggestions to address the mental health issues of our students? Sir Dan, you want to respond to that?
Sige po. Well, when we're talking about po sa mental health po ng especially sa pag-address po ng mental health issues po ng mga estudyante, syempre may mga gagawin tayo dyan structurally, and then may mga gagawin din tayo na nakaatang din sa mental health programs ng ating mga CU. Unang-una po sa structure po ng pagtuturo ng SAS 1, which somehow we adopted here in UPLB, is to limit po yung mga estudyante na nag-i-enroll sa SAS 1. We limited it to 20 to a maximum of 25 students so that we'll be able to really give a full, although medyo madami pa rin yung number na yon sa pwede nating maisasuggest, no? Pero by limiting the number of students, mapapataas po natin yung interaction between the faculty and the student, and also we will be able to matututukan natin yung mga estudyante natin. We will be able to, kasi sa ngayon po kasi na remote learning tayo, napakahalaga ng feedback. Okay, napakahalaga ng feedback. And sa ngayon po, dahil napakarami nating mga student inquiries na tatanggap, napakarami nating mga papel na chinechekan, it might be difficult for us to give feedback kung sobrang daming mga estudyante nating hinahandle. So, importante po yun na for every instance na may mga questions sila na gustong malaman, mahalaga na nasasagot natin ito as much as possible real time. So yun po. And then mahalaga rin po, well, this is dependent na po ito sa mga faculty members, pero mahalaga rin po yung certain degree of compassion na ipinapakita natin sa mga students natin, especially in terms of sa mga requirements, deadlines. Well, may bumaba na naman po tayong OVPAA memo, so I hope that everyone is guided by that memorandum, no? Na mahalaga po na naipapakita natin 'yan. And then when we talk naman po of tawag dito, i-connect natin yung SAS 1 sa mental health programs po ng ating mga CU. Feeling ko mahalaga po that tayo po mismo sa SAS 1, we are strengthening yung referral system, no? Na lalong higit that we are able to refer our students to the Office of Counseling and Guidance or sa University Health Services, especially if we are we encounter students na nagkakaroon po ng mga problema. Kasi tayo po sa SAS 1, limited din naman po yung magagawa natin para sa mental health ng mga estudyante natin. So, isa po sa mga pinakamaganda na magagawa natin is to strengthen the referral system. Kasi po ako, psychologist po ako. So, ini-instill ko po yan sa aking mga estudyante, yung value ng referral. So maganda rin po sana na mai-integrate din natin siya sa ating pagtuturo. So yun po, marami pong salamat.
Maraming salamat, Sir Dan. Meron po bang gustong idagdag?
Ma'am
Jo?
Opo.
Yes, ma'am. Go ahead.
So, may dalawa pong bagay na, dalawang paraan para ma-address yun. Siguro nga, kaiba sa lahat ng ibang GE courses, yung SAS 1, yung integrated dun sa course design at course content niya, yung pag-address sa mental health. May separate SAS 1 module tungkol sa mental health issues, no? Lalong-lalo na ng adolescents. No? Doon sa module na yun, supposedly ay makaka-acquire ng personal effectiveness skills yung ating mga mag-aaral. Tapos as a whole kasi mayroong mga topic siya tungkol sa the relationship of our physical body to our mental health to everything. No? So parang as a course, in terms of course content, nandun siya. In terms of skills, meron tayong mai-impart sa ating mga mag-aaral. But for all of that to be successful and effective talaga, I support Sir Dan's insight na mahalaga talaga na sa ganitong sitwasyon, panatilihin natin in close contact tayo sa mga estudyante, may immediate feedback. Magagawa lang natin yon kung napapanatili natin mas maliit, manageable yung class sizes. Sa experience namin, pwede mong magawa yung mas maliit na class sizes. Napakahalaga noong programa ng universidad para sa pagkakaroon ng mga TAs at TFs. Tapos tingin ko maganda rin yung effort na makapagdagdag ng items para sa mga lecturers. Lalo na siguro kung talagang full items, regular faculty items yung maidadagdag. Malaking magiging tulong. Lalo na kung magpapatuloy pa itong ganitong sitwasyon. So again, it's TAPFs, tapos lecturers, beyond that sana regular faculty items.
Prof. Vanji, meron po tayong...
Yes, Ma'am Rozel.
Opo, may comment po dito sa chat from Dakila Kim Yi. Right? Basahin ko na lang po.
Yes, ma'am. Actually, maganda yung tanong niya kasi parang connected dito sa sa mga nabanggit ng Sige, ma'am, go ahead po.
Opo. So sabi niya po ay, I just want to ask, since SAS 1 is a system GE and the course is designed by a committee, is it possible for the system to produce a series of videos like Coursera type production that can be disseminated to the students? This can help broaden the resources and also address concerns regarding IPR. Yan po.
Siguro, Ma'am Rozel, idagdag ko na rin po, no? Kasi i-share ko din po sa panels tsaka sa attendees na meron din po kasing usapin sa technical working group ng GE implementation. Paano kung halimbawa i-convert nga into a MOOC style itong courses natin, halimbawa yung mga GE courses, pero MOOC style in the sense that it becomes open to all UP students, no? So I guess yung tanong ni Sir Dakila is parang while naiintindihan natin yung nabanggit ni Ma'am Jo at saka ni Sir Dan na sana maliit yung class size. Pero pwede ba, parang I'm curious din ako, 'di ba? Parang pwede ba na parang ilalagay mo lahat yung parang large class yan, maraming estudyante, 'di ba? Pero i-break out mo tapos gagamitin natin yung TATF system para mag-handle ng breakout rooms na yan for discussion or asynchronously yung nabanggit naman ni Sir Enrico kanina, asynchronously to handle naman yung discussion forum doon sa learning management system. So ano pong palagay ng ating mga panelists? Sino po bang gustong maunang mag-share? Sir Enrico?
Ano naman? Okay naman, ma'am. Okay naman. But again, we believe that SAS is really designed for personal, because itself and society, really, mas maganda talaga siya yung normal face-to-face. But again, new normal to ngayon. So yeah, that is very doable naman. Though I was reading a couple of weeks ago yung mga downfall ng mga recording ng mga pag may format ka, kunwari may mga estudyante, they want to consult with the professor and they realize that the professor is already retired or hindi nagtuturo ng class na yon. It was only the recording of the professor. So meaning, whatever we're recording right now is owned by UP, so I could be dead for 50 years and I'll be lecturing. I'll still be doing that recorded lecture for no. So again, doable naman, ma'am, yung to have a more generic for a larger population of students. But I would always believe na if it is no longer the new normal, we're back to normal. SAS is really has to be personal, has to be actually face to face, and the activities really has to be again engaging ng mga estudyante face to face. But for now, again, that's very doable.
Thank you, Sir Enrico. Any additional inputs on that, Ma'am Anipat?
I agree po kay Sir Enrico, no, that SAS, learning SAS, an unique aspect of learning SAS is really the interaction between the students and also between the teacher and students. Perhaps what we gain with the convenience of having like a large group of classes and then may maghahandle lang ng breakout rooms, no? TATFs handling breakout rooms. Perhaps what we gain with that convenience, that's good, but we also lose that personal interaction that the students really crave right now in this remote learning setup. The feedback from the students really, and nakikita ko dito sa chat, no, yung sabi ni Ma'am Dayan about consultation hours and debriefing class sessions. What we gain naman with smaller class sizes is that the students have a closer relationship with their instructors, so that they don't feel alone in their learning journey, no, in remote learning especially. So siguro I am for the convenience of having large groups and small breakout rooms, but also I also want to keep that that relationship, the teacher-learner relationship, that makes SAS a great experience for our students. So gaano po kalaki yung sections?
Yeah, ma'am. Go ahead.
So I'm just gonna answer. Dito po sa UP Visayas, we have tried to keep our class sizes at most 20 students now in the second semester. Pero nung first sem, when we were still grappling with remote learning, we had large classes of 30 to 40, and really it was not effective, both for myself as an instructor and for my students. Kasi ang hirap mag-keep up with that number of students. But now that we have 20 or less, we can manage our students individually and also as a class.
Sir Dan, sa UPLB po ba 20, kasi kanina kay Ma'am Jo 25 eh. So kina Ma'am Anipat 20. So sa UPLB po ba 25?
Last semester po, we experimented na parang 25 to 30. Medyo unmanageable kahit given na po yung number na yon. So ngayon po, we pegged it at 20. Tapos kung may magpi-prerog lang, so sige, i-accept namin ng 20 to 25. Pero I will admit po that number, even though kokonti na siya, is medyo unmanageable pa rin siya, medyo mahirap pa rin siya. Pero syempre, dun po sa number na yon, kailangan na nating i-consider yung sa admin side ng things. Kasi ano ba siya, 'di ba yung sa computation ng units natin medyo maaapektuhan na if we will handle less than 20 students. So may mga tinignan po kaming ganung mga mga factors, kaya nauwi po kami sa 20 to 25 students.
Resources kasi din, no, Sir Dan, diba? So yung faculty resources din yung ano dyan, consideration. Sa UP Manila, Sir Enrico, 20, 25 din kayo?
Well, nagtatawa na kami. Nagtatawa na kami sa chat right now yung mga sa UP Manila because you're talking about 30 to 40. Last last term was 56 kami. So
Oh,
56
no.
students. Well,
So-
ngayon bumaba na to 25 students. Pero yeah, of course it's easier. For me personally, because this format, if you told me if I'm going to teach 28 students in one class and later another 28 students, I'd rather do them all in one class because it's the same lesson. It's the same effort on my part. But of course, with regards to the interaction, the individual questions, the personal, mawawala talaga yon if you have a larger auditorium-like class.
Yeah, so I guess mixed talaga, no? So magandang tignan nga kung paano pwedeng, kumbaga paano pwede siyang ma-optimize, 'di ba? Na ano yung kumbaga sweet spot nung large class na 'yan. Para sa ganun nandun pa rin naman yung interaction and then ma-cover yung topics sa SAS1. So maraming salamat sa pagbahagi, no, at pagsagot dun sa katanungan na yun. Tignan natin yung isang tanong dito. Ay, yes, ma'am.
Prof. Vanji,
Yeah.
may follow-up question po dun sa unang tanong regarding synchronous versus asynchronous. And not exactly that, but the question I think was, how different is online teaching of SAS1 from a face-to-face delivery in terms of class activities? There's a follow-up question po on that. May you just read? The question is really more on, should the self be seen or discussed more in the context of what is happening to us in this pandemic? The reason why we are not doing face-to-face classes, which is very different from the situations taken into account when the self was being looked at prior the pandemic. So yun po yung follow-up question dun sa pinakaunang tanong kanina.
Okay, so ano pong palagay ng ating panelist? Ma'am Anipat, baka gusto mong sagutin?
So I believe the question was, what are we to teach the self in the context of the pandemic, right? And I agree, we should, because that is the essence of SAS1, right? How are we going to negotiate our identity, our construction of ourselves in relation to our interaction with our environment? So we use the same theories, we use the same concepts, but we apply it to a unique context. And kaya nga, yung feedback then from the students was the SAS1 was therapeutic for them kasi they're able to talk about what changed about how they view themselves as students, as daughters, as children, kasi nagbabago eh. So the changes in how they view themselves in this current pandemic is better articulated as they take or as they discuss SAS1 concepts and theories.
Okay, thank you, Ma'am Anipat. Ma'am Jo, ay sorry.
Then tsaka, papaalala ko lang po, nasa module 2 po yun, ng SAS1. Ay kaya ang
Okay.
I mean, kung mayroong isang magandang bagay na nangyari dito is that binibigyan ka ng magandang learning anchor eh. Kasi itong nagbago ka ng definition of the self, nagbago ka ng relationship before and during the pandemic, and then we anticipate after the pandemic, nandun ho yun sa module 2 ng SAS1, yung situatedness of the self. So saan ka pa kukuha ng mas magandang example kundi dito sa direct experiences na kinakapalooban nating lahat. Kaya yung binabanggit kanina na ang hirap-hirap ituro ng module 1 at module, yung first 3 modules ng SAS1, siguro mas magiging madali na siya ngayon kasi ang dami ng examples na pwede mong hugutin sa personal experiences nating lahat.
Okay, thank you. Yung tanong ni Ma'am Farah, medyo related, no? So kasi kanina yung tanong sa mental health ng students. Pero yung as faculty, paano naman nag-a-unload? Kasi paano kayo nag-a-unload emotionally? Sigurado pong maraming estudyanteng naglalabas ng personal struggles at issues sa reflective essays nila. So mukhang the other side naman sa faculty. So paano po kayo nag-a-unload emotionally? Sir Dan, ikaw muna.
feeling ko mahalaga rin po yung, bukod po sa connection nyo with your students, feeling ko mahalaga rin po yung connection nyo with your co-faculties teaching SAS1, na at the end of the day or at the end of the week, you're having this parang debriefing sessions or faculty consultations with them. Kunyari sa mga GC, kumustahan, ganyan. Halimbawa po ako, meron akong mga kaibigan na nagtuturo rin na SAS na every time may mga estudyante na nagsasabi ng ganito, I have to consult with them. And sila din po nagko-consult sa akin regarding those kinds of matter. So mahalaga rin po na connected din tayo sa bawat isa, no? Nakakapag-share tayo ng mga experiences natin from one another so that will hindi lang yung parang tayo lang mag-isa, pero we are also learning from their experiences and yung mga encounters nila. And of course, as a psychologist, again, I would suggest that we engage in self-care because that is very important, no? So yung compassion po na nabanggit ko kanina, hindi lamang yun extended sa mga estudyante natin, but we would also extend that compassion to ourselves. No, napakahalaga po yun that we should also take time, no, para magpahinga. Sana po during the reading break nakapagpahinga tayo. Ayan. So kasi mahalaga rin po yun na binibigyan din natin yung time yung mga sarili natin na mag-recuperate. Kasi sa mga panahon po ngayon, mas prone tayo na maka-experience ng burnout and compassion fatigue. So in order to battle that, we should be able to manage our stresses, do self-care, and of course, take time para po mas maunawaan yung mga experiences na nararanasan din natin as faculty members. Ayun po.
Ayan. Thank you, Sir Dan. Sabi ni Ma'am Jo, Netflix. Kaya lang, Ma'am Jo, baka paano kaya naman na si self-regulate? Ano? Minsan pagka naumpisahan mo, dire-diretso naman din. Pati sa mga estudyante, di ba? So, related din naman doon, no? So, being mindful of the time din, ano? Gusto ko lang ipasok itong tanong tungkol sa pag-manage nung. Kasi ang tanong is, sa point of view nyo as faculty, ano yung possible challenges sa pag-allow ng submissions until the end of the SEM? So actually parang natanong to kaninang morning dun sa History 1 conversation. Ano? And I guess ang it's related to, meron din akong nabasa about tough compassion. And then nakaka-encounter din ako ng mga estudyante na yung nagde-defer sila, gusto nila yan na nade-defer yung submission at the end of the SEM. Kaya lang, paano kaya nila na, yung iba kasi parang nalulunod naman na ang dami na nilang kailangang habulin. Kasi nga, dinefer nila yung submission nitong mga requirements na to. So, ano sa palagay nyo? Sir Enrico?
Well, for me, ma'am, like I said, so umpisa pa lang, nakalagay na lahat ng schedule. So I only give you can submit everything at the end of the term para sa mga distance learners lang. So talaga pag pinrint out na all the readings for them and then I'll see you at the end of the term, I'll just grade your paper, ganon. But in terms of late submissions, yes, I'll accept them pero alam nila na may deductions. Pero if you're gonna tell me end of the term ka magsasubmit on everything, lalo na pag meron tayong mga group activities, then pumunta ka na lang sa course pack B ko, which is distance learning. Okay. So tawa nga kami tama ng first time ginawa yon, yung course pack na yon. And then a lot of students, well not a lot, mga 20% of the students, they wanted the distance learning. And then when they realized na they still wanted the lecture or the synchronous class, hindi lang, kala ko ba gusto nyo lang distance learning lang, diba? Bibigay ko na lang sa inyo yung course pack, then sagot nyo na, bigay nyo na sa akin at the end of the term. So yung 20% na yun, siguro ang natira na lang siguro isang estudyante lang yung distance learning last term. So meaning, they have access to internet. They can watch the videos, they can watch the lectures. So the best concession na bibigay ko is, yeah, pwede ka mag-submit ng late, but we'll have deduction. If you want to submit everything at the end of the term, then mag-distance learning ka na. Without my lectures, without access to my lectures, para ganun. Joke lang.
Sir Dan? You wanted to add something?
Sige po. Kasi same po kay Sir Eric kasi yung sa LMS kasi naka-prepared na siya So may mga deadlines talaga. So prior to the memos that na mga bumaba, what I have been telling my students is that deadlines are there for a reason. No, at ano yung reason na yon? For you to be able to manage your time properly. Kasi kapag nagpapa-deadline naman po ako, at least 1 to 2 weeks yung palugit para makapag-submit sila. So basically the deadline is not there para katakutan at i-dread na oh my God, kailangan ko makapag-submit. But for them to understand that it will serve as their guide para alam nila, given na kung meron silang 12 units, ganito nila ilalaan yung mga oras nila para makapaggawa ng mga submissions nila. Pero sabi ko nga po, it is not without compassion. So if ever po may mga ito po personal ito ha. Kunwari may mga nangyari sa kanila, for example, hindi naman natin maiiwasan na kunyari nawawalan ng internet, nawawalan ng kuryente, and I have lots of students who tested positive for COVID. So I really allowed them to submit late or submit then no during by the end. Actually hindi ako nag-allow na by the end kasi magsasuffer naman kasi yung faculty noon eh. Kasi sabi ko nga dapat part din tayo ng compassion na dun sa pag mag-a-allow tayo ng late submissions, iisipin din natin yung sarili natin na baka mamaya matatambakan naman tayo ng mga tsetsekan. So dapat i-consider din natin mabuti yon, tas i-weigh din natin yung consequences, lalong-lalo na sa part natin na baka tayo naman yung mahirapan. But then again, we should allow yung mga estudyante natin to do so, given na considerable din naman, yung pagiging considerate din naman yung iisipin natin, that would really allow them to participate and submit on time. Submit and fulfill the requirements of the class. Ayun.
Okay, thank you. At saka meron tayong sharing din dito sa so yung isang sabi nga Sir Dan, ang challenge is yung faculty naman yung matatambakan. Tapos meron dito din nagsasabi na yung feedback so the students miss out on the feedback kapag sa dulo ng SEM na sila magsasubmit. Kaya sabi ni Ma'am Jo Del Mundo naman, negotiation is key. And i-share ko rin na meron ding isang nag-suggest na positive reinforcement naman, para lang din maengganyo or ma-motivate ang students to follow the deadline. So parang yung ibang faculty nagbibigay ng parang bonus points kapag nag-submit sila ng requirements on time. So yun yung isa namang way to manage itong requirements ng course. So Ma'am Rozel, time check lang. So 11:52 na. Siguro one last question na lang po, kasi isa na lang yung hindi na dito. And related to activities. Kasi may nagtanong sa mga panelists with activities na walang rating. So I guess non-graded. So kamusta ang participation ng students dito? Kasi sa experience niya, yung iba hindi din naman gumagawa nitong non-graded activities na to. So, Ma'am Anipat?
Unavoidable po talaga, that there really will be students who will not participate in non-graded activities. But from my experience, the students do participate. They are trying to really cope with this entire situation by integrating their classes into their new normal. So talagang nakikita ko yung students making effort to do group work, to post in discussion boards kasi they also want to feel like they are in control of their time. They are students. They want to fulfill their roles as students. So most of the time or majority, I do see most of my students participate in non-graded activities. And there are really some na talagang mawawala sila for the entire SEM. And it's our job, right, to check up on them and see if they're still okay. And at the same time, itong mga non-graded activities, it's on us as instructors to make them interesting, to make these activities or to make these activities encouraging for our students to think and really participate. So, huwag tayong magbigay ng activities na parang what is the self? Ganon. Eh di syempre, maano sila na, ba't ko pa sasagutin yan? It's common sense. Ganon. So we have to give them questions that really tickle their minds and give them and really make them happy to engage in for these, not just for non-graded activities, but for all the activities that we think of for our classes.
Thank you, Ma'am Anipat. Okay, gusto ko lang, bago ko i-turn over kay Ma'am Rozel for the synthesis, gusto ko lang sagutin yung comment ni Sir Dakila about TATFs for the breakout rooms, no? So pareho pa rin naman po, sir, yung ating guidelines for TATFs. Kailangan na ito ay mga graduate students, no? Pero ang ano is pwedeng mag-expand, meaning not necessarily graduate students sa program nyo, pero pwedeng graduate students sa ibang degree program. At saka pwedeng coming from other CUs. I guess yan yung isang advantage nitong remote setup natin, na kahit halimbawa UP Cebu, pwede siyang kumuha ng TA na taga-UP Diliman or taga-UP LB or taga-UP Manila. And then aside from TATF, kung halimbawa limited naman yung graduate students na matatap natin to be TATFs, pwede din pong ma-explore ang lecturers, yung mechanism ng pag-hire ng lecturers para mag-handle ng mga small groups natin kung large class format. So I guess that we can close the Q&A portion, no? And I turn over kay Ma'am Rozel for the synthesis.
Okay,
Ma'am Rozel.
Right. So marami pong salamat sa lahat ng mga nagtanong at sa naging response ng ating panelists. Now, ito po yung mga i-highlight ko lang, no, from based dun sa ating presentations kanina at sa mga ilang mga naging tanong. Right? So one, na-affirm po sa session natin ang relevance ng SAS 1, no? It remains relevant, especially at this time of the pandemic. It will always be a course that will allow for self-reflection, self-understanding, self-expression, as well as a means towards collective action. Yeah, no? And with respect to the handling of the course, ang mga key points po na i-highlight ko dito sa aking notes are the following: that since ang isa sa mga sabihin na natin kulang o hindi natin nasasagawa sa ngayon sa ating remote learning or online learning mode ay yung kawalan ng group discussion activities. We can also look at this as an opportunity. How do we address this? We can do group discussions and interaction by engaging our students in other platforms, no? Particularly various platforms like yung mga nabanggit earlier, like Mentimeter, Kahoot, Quizzes, and maximize the technology available to us. What was also emphasized earlier are the following: that we should capitalize on self-paced directed learning as well as flexibility, no? And hindi din po matatawaran yung availability ng faculty pagdating sa pag-handle ng SAS 1 course. Now, with respect to the course packs, naging very positive ang response sa course packs. I think ang isang key point na ibahagi dito sa atin ay yung idea that we need to design our course pack in a way that we are thinking of a student who will learn by herself or himself, no? Kumbaga, ang sabi nga dito ni Prof. Enrico kanina, we must be oriented to a distant learning modality, no? So that we will be able to come up with a course pack that's organized, predictable, structured, and well prepared. Yeah. Now, with respect to opportunities, pinakita po din sa atin dito ni Professor Jo, no, yung current setup natin ngayon ay totoo namang mahirap. However, as also was answered also in the question kanina, no, we should use this particular period, no, in our history as anchor, no, for our teaching, right? So it is an educational resource, no, and hopefully through this process we allow our students to become more resilient and to have this as an opportunity for self-expression, right? Now, with respect to challenges, no, meron po mga nabanggit na suggestions dito, no, like maganda na pag-isipan in the future magkaroon ng orientation para sa mga faculty na nagha-handle ng SAS 1. Magkaroon ng network among SAS 1 faculty in each CU as well as across the different CUs. Ayan po. So pinakita po talaga sa ating panel discussion yung kahalagahan ng SAS1 sa panahon ngayon. At doon po sa mga ilan, sa mga naging tanong, isa po sa matingkad na lumabas ay ang SAS1 ay isang pagkakataon para ma-enhance ang critical thinking sa ating mga estudyante. Hindi po ito para magpag-awayin ng mga disiplina at magkaroon ng posisyon between self and society, kundi i-combine at magkaroon ng collaboration sa mga perspectives. At yung mga issues such as gender, mental health issues, in fact, are integrated in our course. In fact, meron po tayong mga very specific modules that tackle this, right? But at the same time, given the challenges, maganda pong pag-isipan kung paano pa natin mas mapapabuti ang pagtuturo ng SAS1 sa pamamagitan po ng class size, no? So isa po yan sa naging discussion natin kanina kung ano ba yung sapat. Sabi nga ni Prof. Amor kanina, ano yung sweet spot, no? Para ma-strike natin yung balance na mayroong interaction among our students at mas magiging madali rin sa atin para magbigay ng feedback. Okay? Na-reiterate din po, okay, yung kahalagahan ng pag-take care, no, pagkakaroon ng compassion sa ating mga estudyante, pero yung compassion po na yan ay hindi lang limited sa ating estudyante, kundi kailangan din po nating i-manifest ito, no, at i-exercise sa ating mga sarili sa pamamagitan ng mas regular na connection with our co-faculty, particularly those teaching SAS1, no, and to take time to recuperate. Ayan po. So I hope I was able to synthesize our session today. And I would say that it was a fruitful discussion. I'm sure na marami pa po sanang pagkakataon na mas mapag-usapan, no, yung mga susunod na mga, sabi nga po, ways forward para sa pagtuturo, sa mas effective na pagtuturo ng SAS1. Yun po. Alright? Okay, so now it's almost 12 na po, ano? So we now proceed to the closing of our session. Right? So may we, pwede po sigurong at this point ay photo op na po ba muna tayo, ma'am, para habang nandito pa yung mga participants?
Ma'am Rozel, mabilis lang, no? So we can actually, if you will all allow me, let me just present on behalf of the OVPAA and the Technical Working Group ng GE Implementation, the Certificate of Appreciation to our panelists. So just to read this Certificate of Appreciation presented to the panelists and moderators, specifically for Ma'am Rozel Balmores-Paulino for imparting her invaluable knowledge as a moderator during the SAS1 GE Conversations of the UP System GE Conference 2021 with the theme Baon-Bidahan. How did you teach GEX in your CU? Given this 6th day of May 2021, signed by Vice President for Academic Affairs, Maria Cynthia Rose Bautista. And we also present the Certificate of Appreciation to the panelists, Ma'am Aniceta Patricia Alingasa, si Ma'am Josephine Dionisio, si Sir Enrico Baula, and si Sir Paolo Yema. So maraming salamat po sa lahat at sa mga nag-participate ngayon. So this is the last conversation for today, and sana kita-kita ulit sa conversations, yung last batch ng part 1 conversations on May 10. Ito yung mga clustered GE courses natin, and then we have the plenary conversations on May 11. So I'd also like to thank our secretariat and support staff, sina Steph, Kai, and Isaiah, pati si Dan and Rika for handling the Q&A panel and collating the questions. And of course, the TWG on GE implementation. Kasama natin ngayon sina Sir Mo Liangco of UPLB, si Ma'am Nak Gabriel of UP Diliman, and si Ma'am Pat Arinto as member at large. So Ma'am Rozel, pwede na po tayong mag-photo op.
Sige po. So i-request po natin kung sino pwedeng mag-open ng kalang video. Alright. So ang ating pong secretariat ang magte-take ng photos, right?
Yes po. Ayan. So we have 3 frames. Ngiti lang po tayong lahat. 1, 2, 3. Ayan. Last 2. Yes. Thank you. That's it po.
Okay, thank you pa, Secretariat. Pwede pa post ulit sa chat yung link sa feedback form para dun sa nakamiss nung link natin. Ayan, thank you very much. So muli, maraming salamat po sa lahat. Happy lunch!
Happy lunch
And,
po. At
kita-kita ulit po next week sa susunod na set ng conversations. Ingat po tayo lahat lagi.
ingat po. Maraming salamat po.
Ma'am.